Hey guys, I'm going to show you how the PeopleOps method works for attracting candidates, sourcing passive candidates, and making the process work a ton smoother than the traditional recruiting method is. Even with modern tools that we use today, I believe that this is going to make for a much smoother candidate experience. We're going to communicate in a way that they want to be communicated to. And I think it's going to help us convert candidates that are just not talking to recruiters right now. So the method as a whole, our philosophy is so traditional recruiting is, so let's say you're looking for a software engineer. Now the traditional idea is you're going to identify, let's say 500 software engineers for your company. Now, out of those 500, you're going to break them down to maybe 100 because you're going to be breaking them down based on, things like location, let's say technology stack. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe not. Tech stack, whether it's like front end, back end, JavaScript or open source, Python, etc. So within that 100, you're going to reach out, you're going to find candidates that are interested. You're going to present that candidate to the hiring manager. Hiring manager is going to say yes, no, and this is in between here, you're probably doing an interview, a phone screen. Hiring manager is going to say yes, no. So this block of time is a huge amount of time suck for a recruiter, because if you're reaching out to 100, even if you're using InMail, which if you are just using InMail, that's lazy. But let's say you're just using InMail. So that's only 2 clipboards. So you could probably reach out to 100 people over the course of a couple, an hour or so. And let's say your response rate is 20%, right? So you're talking to 20 candidates. You have 20 candidates go through this process. So 20 candidates at an average of let's say you book a 30-minute time slot. It actually only takes 15. That's a lot of time that you can be spending to still not know if those 20 candidates are even going to be a yes for the hiring manager. So here's the PeopleOps method. Here's the method at the core. Instead of doing that whole process, what we do is we start with the hiring manager and we spend time with the hiring manager during the intake, which I know a lot of great recruiters already do a proper intake. They do a really good job of understanding the role. So that part is probably the same. But during the intake, what we do is we do a calibration. This is also something that is not new. There's a lot of recruiters that do calibrations. But our calibration deck is going to be, let's say, 20 to 50 candidates. So we're not going to do the full 500, we're going to do 20 to 50. And we're going to make those 20 to 50 as spot on as we can, as we can from that first intake. We'll schedule a call with the hiring manager and we'll go through each one of those profiles. Now, it sounds like it takes a lot of time. The first call does, because we want to understand if the hiring manager likes the profile, we want to understand why. If the hiring manager doesn't like a profile, we want to understand why. And that's the second part of the calibration that really is going to make the difference for the rest of the search. So let's say we did 50, and the hiring manager, we did a really crappy job, and the hiring manager only likes 20 of the 50. That doesn't happen, but let's just say it did. Then, instead of spending the time going after the 50, we're going to spend time going after the 20. And because we're only going to go after 20, we're not just sending an email. We're probably messaging them and calling them probably everywhere possible. Text, direct message, social media, email, obviously personal email, etc. Everywhere. So our response rate is going to be a lot higher on that 20 because we're spending the time to do it. Second, because we already know that the hiring manager wants to talk to this candidate, you're able to speak to the candidate with a much, much higher level of authority because you know they're going to proceed to an interview or at least a phone screen. So that allows us to get a much higher conversion rate to that 20 and shortcut the process to get them right to the hiring manager. So most of the time when we're working with a recruiter, our recruiters will pick up the candidate after the first phone screen with the hiring manager. So they're already in the second level of the process, shortcutting the entire top of funnel for the recruiters that we work with. So if you're a recruiter working with us, this could be a game changer for you in terms of your time, because you can spend all your time closing qualified candidates and not dealing with the front end of the constant ebb and flow of getting people in front of your hiring manager that they may just dismiss. So we just repeat this iteration as many times as it takes to get a hire. Now, typically, because we're dealing with targeted, we only have to typically do the cycle 4 or 5 times, and we typically have a completely full interview panel going, a completely full funnel, and the rec most of the time goes away. Now, does that happen all the time? Of course not. The nature of what we do as sourcers, we get the gnarly recs, right? We get the recs that are legitimately hard. So sometimes you get into a search, maybe the location is challenging, it's an expensive market, the local market saturated, you're gonna have to relocate someone into an expensive market. Maybe, it's just a tough technology, whatever the case may be, there's always something. But, some searches, they're legitimately difficult. So the searches that are difficult, they're gonna take greater iterations, greater amount of iterations. There's a search I'm on right now with a client that I legitimately love the client, like they're a great product, great company. It's been a hard search. So it's just one of those things that sometimes it just takes a lot of elbow grease to a lot of cycles to get it through. And a lot of times in situations like that, even the target or the profile may shift a little bit for the hiring, because the hiring manager is discovering too, right? So sometimes, they may think they want a product manager that has, JavaScript and Node experience. But after they talk to, 5 or 10, they realize, well, they need that, but they needed that within this context. And that's some of the stuff that sometimes hiring managers don't even know in the front end. They don't know themselves until they went through several iterations of interviews to gather that. So that's the traditional that's PeopleOps as of right now. That's how we work, and this works fine. But this is just a process. There's really nothing special about this. This is just stuff that we've learned on how to best produce sourcing outcomes over a decade of doing it. But here's chapter 2. Here's what we're excited about. So we take this methodology, if you will, and we've created it's almost a funnel, almost like a sourcing funnel. So think of like a sourcing funnel where we can reverse. So versus where most sourcing is like this, where you're starting with a giant pool of candidates and you're getting to the single candidate. We are distilling the market very rapidly. When I say very, I mean very rapidly, to filter out or filter down the candidates that are interested. We're using a variety of technologies to do this. We've been testing and testing and testing. In fact, I've been, I was on a call with a potential client last night. They're on the West Coast. They're like, I can't believe you're at the office at 9:30. I'm like, I'm testing. I've been testing a tool. These tools for. It is not just one tool. It's a combination of tools. We built some proprietary stuff of our own, and it's allowing us to automate a lot of the funnel process to be able to take a rec. So, let's say it's at inside sales. So you're building 50 inside salespeople. To take that search, distill an entire group of the market, filter them in, get them screened in a way that's intuitive to where they are, intuitive to the market, and then get that entire project to the hiring manager in that same context. And so it gives us the ability to disproportionately outperform other recruiters and other agencies and things like that, and something that we're super excited about. So hopefully that makes sense. That's our method. That's what we're working on. If you don't understand it, that's okay. That's the point. You can hire us. We're happy to do it. The point is, the thing I want to drive home is it works. And not only does it work, it is outperforming anything that I've seen in the sourcing world in over a decade. When I first created the method, and this really, it's funny because it's almost like out with the old and with it even older. This is something that I started to do in the very beginning of my career, but I drifted away from it because when I first started sourcing, LinkedIn InMail and a lot of these tools literally didn't exist. So I was doing InMails before there was InMails. So once technology caught up with me, I had to jump in front of it, which is where I used a better process to win. Now we've jumped back in front of technology to where we can use our process to win, and we can also use technology to our benefit to once again outperform our competitors, outperform other recruiters, outperform other companies that we're competing against who are also looking for great talent. So we're really excited about this. I think that as the months unfold, as we start, we're signing 50 beta clients right now. So as we test over the next few months and get some major wins and release some white papers and things like that, I think the market's going to respond really well. So we're super excited about it, and can't wait to hopefully team up with you and get started. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up or subscribe if you're interested in catching some more videos on PeopleOps and what we're up to. And thanks a lot. Talk soon.